everyone, it's Alice and welcome to another reading vlog. The concept for this is not particularly complicated. I want to read some adventure books and I want to take you along with me, and that's kind of it. I love a good adventure book. I really struggle to find the kinds of adventure books that I really like, and I know some of you struggle with the same thing. So I thought it could be fun to just read a couple and talk about them, and hopefully we will find some good ones. Now, there is a particular book that actually sparked the idea for this, and even though I should have maybe waited until starting this vlog to start reading it, I couldn't help myself. I just had to start it. It's this one. It's The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi, and this is like one of the more exciting adventure books that I've seen come out in years, and I just had to start it. So maybe we should just talk about it a little bit. Besides this, I haven't entirely decided what books I'm going to read for this vlog, but this is obviously going to be the first one, and I have a couple of options on my shelves. I think I'm just gonna pick them when I've finished this. I'm very much a mood reader, so I think it's best to just pick them when I actually have to read them. But I am reading this, and it is very interesting so far. Now, before I tell you what this book is actually about, let's just take a minute to appreciate this beautiful, beautiful book. I got this in hardcover, and I'm so glad that I did because it is gorgeous. It also has beautiful end papers. It has this map. This is the map of the world that we're in, and it also has an illustration at the back, which I think is the cover for either another hardcover edition or the paperback edition. I don't quite know. But beautiful book, and it makes me extra excited and happy that I'm reading it. At this point, I am a little under halfway through, and I'm really enjoying this. The story is about this notorious female pirate who, when we meet her, she is retired. She's been retired for 10 years, and that means that she's a little bit older now, and she has a daughter, and she's kind of living in hiding in a way, and we're not entirely told why she's hiding. Obviously, if you're a pirate, I'm assuming you've made quite a lot of enemies, but there seems to be more going on as well. She lives with her daughter and her mother, and the story sort of starts when this rich woman appears outside her house and is like, I know who you are and I want your help. The rich woman has a granddaughter who has, depending on who you ask, she has either run away or she's been kidnapped. And this grandmother wants the help of this female pirate to find the girl. She's been gone for 2 months though, so I don't know. But she offers our dear main character an insane amount of money to do this, and it is too good to pass up. So it draws our main character out of retirement a little bit, and she goes on an adventure. She has a ship, and it's been run by one of her best friends and crewmates for a decade, and she's, at this point where I'm at now, she's gathering her old crew because this assignment is a lot more difficult and dangerous than maybe she initially thought. I think she kind of knew that it was going to be dangerous though, and I think she knows that she knows as well, but she's in denial a little bit because she feels bad about having left her daughter behind. But she loves life at sea. And so it's very interesting because yes, it is about this adventure and this quest that they're going on, but it's also about this character and her struggle with being a mother and loving her daughter, but also being this free woman of the sea and loving that life as well. If you can't tell by the way I'm talking about it, I am really, really enjoying this book. I love the world that it's set in. It's set in our world, so the map is of a part of our world. It's the Middle East type around there, and the cities aren't all the same. I think it's old names for cities, but whatever. There is a little bit of fantasy elements, paranormal elements in here. There's a thing that happens in the very first beginning of the book. The first beginning the first few pages of the book, there is something paranormal that happens that isn't entirely explained. And then it seems like our main character has, I don't know, but it seems like she's known or been married to some sort of demon, but it's not entirely clear yet. But it is very interesting. I also just love reading about our main character, and I also love that she's a little bit older. I think she's in her 40s or 50s or something like that, and she is this huge woman who takes up so much space, and she's really badass, but she's also just a woman, and she has like feminine parts of her and also masculine parts, and she's a very interesting character, and it's just cool to read about a lady pirate. I feel like at the point where I'm at now is where they're sort of, because she doesn't have a lot to go on how to like get this girl back. She doesn't know where she is, but it seems like they're sort of gathering enough clues now to go to this particular place, and it seems very, very dangerous. So even though they've been on some adventures already, the big adventure is about to start now. I will say it has taken quite some time to get to that. I don't mind that because I really like getting to know characters. I really like that kind of build-up. But I could see how some people maybe feel like this is a little bit slower. It is also a little bit of a longer book. But I really like that. I would rather have more character building and stuff that like that instead of not having it, because then it just feels like it's going too fast. I also so far really like the writing. There have been a couple of things in here where I've like read it several times because I was like, oh, that was really good, and I really like it. I like the characters, I like how the dialogue is written, I like this world. All of it is very exciting, and I'm glad that I've found an adventure book that I really like, because I've not had the best luck lately with these kinds of books. I guess I haven't thought that much about how pirate books probably are perfect for me. I haven't read a lot of them, but I also like other kinds of adventures, so maybe we should try to read some of those later in the vlog, but for now, we have pirates, and it's great. So this was absolutely fantastic, and I loved it, and oh, I'm so happy because it really scratched that like adventure itch that I had, and I know I shouldn't be that surprised, but I am a little bit surprised by how much I love this book. If you're looking for a fun adventure, this is just fantastic, and I really enjoyed it. I really like the writing. I feel like it's the perfect balance of like action and characters and like descriptions of places. It's very creative, and it like took some turns that I did not see coming. It sort of veers sort of towards the supernatural. This is fantasy, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on with that. Like our main character ends up like visiting this bird court, and it's a whole thing, but my god, is there a lot of adventure in this. I feel like I actually enjoyed this book so much that I don't even really know how to talk about it, because it was just, I don't really have any complaints at all. I liked all of it. I enjoyed all of it. You might even say that I loved it. It's a 5 out of 5 star read for me, and I don't have any complaints because it was great. It definitely feels like the perfect book for me. I think that this is one of those where when you get to the halfway point and it starts like really taking off, if you're not into that, you might not enjoy this as much, because it really, there's a lot of stuff that happens, and I think that some people, like having read some reviews, not everyone liked that sort of journey and how fantasy driven it got and all of that, but I loved it. I loved every single bit, and so good. Also, it felt quite high stakes, which I really liked. I think in the beginning, there is sort of a reason that our main character ends up really going after this like girl, even though she knows that it's a bad idea and it's really dangerous. And I feel like the stakes just got higher and higher, so you got more and more stressed, but I really liked that. I also have to say I really like the way that this story is told. you're told the story, like our main character is telling the story to someone who wants to tell her story, like a scribe or like a writer. And that's how we're told the story as well, which I thought worked really well, because the story is all about her adventures and she's like famous, and I liked how all of that tied together in the end, which if you read the book, you know what I mean. I thought that was a nice way to sort of round it off. I will say though, I can never quite find the kind of adventure that I'm really looking for. This is more like Pirates of the Caribbean type adventure, and that's not, like, I really like that as well apparently. I think there's a lot of potential for me reading pirate books and like those kinds of adventure books, but I am also looking for just like other kinds of adventure books. I can never quite find them, but I'm really glad that I read this because obviously I loved it, and I feel like I'm gonna have to delve into pirates now, which is gonna be interesting. Anyways, I might have slightly more coherent thoughts about this in a little while, but just know that I absolutely loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. It was great. I think this is the third book that I've given 5 stars to this year, which means that it's pretty damn good. But I still want to find that like archaeology type adventure that I'm really looking for, so we're gonna try to find that in my next book, which is going to be this one. This was recommended to me by one of you, I think, and I think like what I really want is a book that is like The Mummy, the movie. I feel like I'm always kind of looking for that, and the closest I've gotten is like Crocodile on the Sandbank by Elizabeth Peters, I think is the author. Like that sort of is like that, but yeah, I just kind of want to find that kind of book. And this is about a woman who is like a lady archaeologist who finds a tomb in Egypt, and there's like a curse, and it sounds very promising. It's also set in the 1920s, which I love, and I just hope that this is kind of like a different kind of adventure, because I'm calling it adventure, but it's more of like an exploration type adventure. I don't really know how to like describe it, but I'm hoping that there will be the kind of adventure in here that I'm looking for, and not just straight up historical fiction, because that's not really what I'm looking for. So let's give this a go. Okay, so I'm now about a third of the way through this book, and it's alright. I don't think that it's exactly what I'm looking for, which is a shame, and I think I went into this book expecting a certain type of book, and it's not quite what I'm getting. It is more historical fiction than anything else, and it's not very, honestly, it's not very exciting. The story starts off with us meeting a woman as she has had a stroke. She's elderly and she is in a home, or like at a hospital, and she has had quite a lot of strokes throughout her life, because I think she was in some sort of accident or something that makes her prone to strokes, and she's been able to bounce back relatively quick the last few times it's happened, but now it's having like more consequences than it has in the past. So she's struggling with her speech and all of that, but she's married to this man, and they have like a history, or she has a history of archaeology, and she was there when like they first found a particular type of tomb. I don't actually know how to pronounce the name. Tutankhamun? I don't know. But they found a tomb in Egypt, and she was like one of the people who were there. It is the kind of book where we're switching between past and present, and because our main character has had the stroke, this thing has happened where she can like remember things from like ages ago, but she can't remember newer events, which is a thing that often happens when people lose their memories. So we're sort of flipping back to the past and her going to Egypt with her father and going to this tomb. And yeah, there's also someone from Egypt who works at either a museum or a university in Egypt who has come to her and wants to ask her questions, because there's like a discrepancy between what was supposed to be in the tomb and what was actually found in the tomb. So this person is wondering if maybe the people who first entered the tomb took some things without telling anyone. It is a little bit of a slower book in some senses. Like, there hasn't been much mention of this curse, which I thought would maybe be like one of the more exciting parts of this book. But so far it's been a lot about how this main character met her husband and like her coming out in society and growing up and stuff, and it's less archaeology focused than I really thought. And although she's taken part in some archaeology stuff, there isn't a lot about her actually doing that much of the work. I don't know. It's not hitting quite the right spot for me, and I wonder if this is gonna manage to like pick up, because at the pace we're going at now, it's gonna have to do a lot in these last 2/3. I will say though, I do understand the recommendation, because I think what I said was that I want books that are similar to the Mummy movie, and there are a lot of similarities in this, but it's just a little bit less exciting. That thing that always happens to me as well with these kinds of historical fiction books is also happening in this, where we're switching between past and present, and I'm very much more interested in the past, and we're spending a lot of time in the present, and I kind of wish we just followed her like in the past, and because that's where the exciting stuff is happening. I also didn't realize, but I think these characters are based on real characters, these two people, I guess, and I think that the woman who we're reading the most about did do some archaeology stuff. I don't really know, and I can't really tell how much of it is based on real stuff and not. There is a historical afterword in this though, which is cool, and I'm definitely going to read. And I think one of the main themes of this book is like who should get to keep artifacts, because in the 1920s and before, when British people went to Egypt and just stole stuff, they just took whatever they wanted. And there is also a little bit in here about how it belongs to the Egyptians, obviously, and there's like a little bit of conversation about that, which I guess is interesting. It's just, this is one of those things where I feel like there's nothing wrong with the book. It's just not exactly what I wanted. Okay, so I finished the book, and this is one of those cases where it's just like, this is a fine book. It was alright. It was like, I didn't dislike reading it. I kind of just read it and that was it. I don't know if I really feel that much for the book, which is maybe a little bit harsh, but it's just not exactly what I want, which is not the book's fault. And I think I got a comment that said like, I think you want sort of more supernatural fantasy type books, and I think I think I would probably like this better if the curse was one of those things where you actually wondered if it was real. It doesn't need to be confirmed that it's real, but it's like very, at least to me in this book, very clearly that the curse is just made up. And I think I would like it more if you're left in a place where you really wonder if it was or not. And there is a little bit that happens with that at the end where I was like, okay, but I don't think the build-up was particularly strong. And I think this book is just more about these two people, and it's almost more about their relationship and like this woman's life, and the archaeology stuff is not as big a part of it as I would have liked, I don't think. And yeah, it was fine. I also think one of the reasons that I wasn't like super into this is that I think if this story had a different writing style that was more descriptive, I maybe would have felt more invested, because I really like a really descriptive writing style, whereas this was a little bit more plain than maybe I wanted. It didn't do much, really. And I do also think this book does a little bit of like telling us stuff and not showing us stuff. And I don't know if I really felt that much of a connection to any of the characters besides the main character and maybe like the husband, but all of the side characters were a little bit like, I don't know. It just didn't quite do it for me. I really have to say it again though, like there's nothing wrong with this book. It didn't do anything wrong. It just wasn't for me. So the search continues to find a book like The Mummy, which I feel like is going to be my life's mission because they are really hard to find. Now I was planning on maybe reading another book for this vlog, but to be honest, after having read this, I feel like I just need a little bit of a break from adventure books. So it's just gonna be these two for this vlog. I hope that's okay. I feel like I learned a lot though, and this has given me some ideas. The biggest thing that I've discovered from this vlog is that pirates is something that I like. I don't know if I've really read that many pirate books. I wonder if this is the first one. I feel like I've read maybe one other, but definitely into pirates. So if anyone has any other pirate adventure books, I would absolutely love to know. I don't really want YA, and this is also one of those struggles for me, where I want like sort of like fantasy, supernatural adventure, but I don't want the characters to be super young, and that's one of the things I really liked in this book, because the main character is a little bit older, and she also like has a daughter and a family, and there are all of this other stuff going on that I really liked. But I feel like there's a lot of potential with reading pirate books. I also don't want, like, one of the things I really liked about this is that romance isn't really a big thing in it. I don't mind a little bit of romance. I'm getting more and more into it, but I don't want a romance book that has adventure in it. I want adventure that has romance in it, if that makes sense. I also think that comment I got that said that I probably like supernatural and like fantasy type adventures, I think it's definitely right. There is quite a lot of fantasy in this, and I don't mind if it goes like over the top and it's a little bit ridiculous. I quite like that, and it does take it quite far, this book, but I really liked it. I also think that this is the first in a trilogy, which is very exciting. It's sort of like, it could have ended here, but it also sets up what might happen in the other books, and I'm very excited. I think from this I learned that maybe books about archaeologists that are just like historical fiction might not be for me. I think I might need a little bit more excitement or just more actual archaeology. But if anyone has any like adventure exploration books about an archaeologist, preferably a female archaeologist, I know I'm asking for a lot, but if anyone has any recommendations, let me know. I am glad that I read this, and I think I mentioned I understand the recommendation, and yeah, it just wasn't, it wasn't quite it for me. I think if I were to read a historical fiction that's just straight up not anything supernatural or anything like that, I'm veering more towards, like I mentioned, Crocodile on the Sandbank, which is the kind of book where, again, there is like a curse going on and you are kind of wondering if it's real or not. And that book does that very well, but there is a little bit of a mystery element to that. There is kind of like a mystery in here as well, but it's not really super engaging. They're just looking for something that the main character has forgotten where she put, which is not, it's not the most exciting thing that I've ever read, but yeah. More like Crocodile on the Sandbank, I think, is my thing. I feel like this is sort of an abrupt end to this vlog, but I am gonna end it here because I think I just want to go read something else. I wonder if I should read like a cozy mystery. I think maybe I want to read the next book in the Perveen mystery series, because it's, we're not entirely into fall yet, and that feels like a summery type book. So I might read that. And yeah, it was interesting though. I'm always interested in reading adventure type books, so it's always fun to read them and discover new things that you like and maybe things that you don't like as much. And yeah, any recommendations for pirate books, send them my way because I am ready. I hope you enjoyed this video though, even though it was a little bit all over the place. And as always, thank you very much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you soon. Bye!